There is a moment in the writings of Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who also doubled as a philosopher, that reads, "What if you've been holding on to the wrong end of the stick? What if your view of the world is upside down?" These aren't rhetorical questions. They're invitations to turn our perceptions on their head. And that's exactly what we're doing today. Have you ever felt like the world is too much to handle? Like the whirlwind of events, emotions, and people around you is just too intense? You try to grab hold, but it feels like you're chasing shadows. You try to find a stable ground, but everything seems to be shifting beneath your feet. Let me ask you something. What if the problem isn't the world? What if the issue is how you're engaging with it? What if you've been looking at the world the wrong way all along? Today, we're going to flip the script and explore a perspective that just might change everything. Join me. When Marcus Aurelius penned these words, he was contemplating the very nature of our existence. He was thinking about the ups and downs, the joys and sorrows that color our human journey. His central question wasn't, why does life feel so hard? It was, what if our perception of life is off? What if we're looking at it through a distorted lens? He wasn't suggesting that we ignore or deny the difficulties life throws our way. He was inviting us to examine our relationship to these experiences. You've been holding on to the wrong end of the stick. This is a simple yet profound statement. We tend to think of ourselves as these tiny beings, like a lone sailboat in a vast ocean. The ocean represents the world, and we imagine ourselves at its mercy. Storms arise and threaten to capsize us. Waves crash over us, trying to knock us off course. But what if it's not the ocean causing all this turbulence? What if the trouble starts with the way we grab onto that tiny stick? What if our understanding of how we relate to the world is completely backwards? In his meditations, Marcus Aurelius didn't just theorize. He lived by these principles. He wasn't some ivory tower philosopher. He was a man wrestling with real-life challenges, making decisions that affected the lives of millions. And yet he never lost sight of this fundamental truth. The world is neutral. It doesn't know good or bad, joy or sorrow, strength or weakness. Those labels, those interpretations, they come from us. They're part of the story we construct in our minds. But what if we're looking at the world through the wrong end of the telescope? What if the world itself isn't the source of our problems, but just the backdrop against which our internal narratives play out? Think about a painter. Their canvas is their world. But the colors, the shapes, the very essence of what we see, that comes from the artist. Similarly, the world is our canvas, but it's our interpretations, our judgments, our narratives that give rise to our experiences. This brings us to one of the most misunderstood concepts in the history of philosophy, the Stoic idea of indifference. It doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean lack of caring. It means freedom from the tyranny of outcomes. It means not attaching our happiness to things we cannot control. It's easy to get lost in the labyrinth of external factors. Is my business going to succeed? Will I win the case in court? Will I find love tomorrow? And the relentless questioning saps our energy, drains our peace. Marcus Aurelius was keenly aware of this. In his personal writings, he didn't ponder, will Rome succeed? Will the empire grow? He asked himself, can I do my part to make Rome better? He understood that while he couldn't control the outcome, he could control his actions. But how does this translate to our everyday lives? How can we navigate the complexities of modern existence while keeping our eyes on what we can influence? Let's take one of the most potent examples, our relationships. Relationships are among the most significant sources of joy, growth, and yes, pain in our lives. But what if we approach them the wrong way? What if instead of focusing on how our partner acts, on whether they say the right words, on whether they meet our expectations, what if we focused on ourselves? What if we concentrated on becoming the best version of ourselves, on saying the right words, on acting in ways that reflect our deepest values. By doing so, we don't become indifferent to the needs and feelings of others. We actually become more attuned to them. We free ourselves from the compulsion to mold others to our desires and open ourselves up to the beauty of genuine connection. And what if we apply this lens to the world at large? The world is indeed full of turmoil. There are conflicts and crises, economic shifts, and political upheavals. But what if, as Stoics, our primary focus is on what we can control, on how we respond, on the example we set? What if we dedicate ourselves to understanding rather than judging, to empathy rather than blame, to contributing rather than complaining? By doing so, we don't retreat into apathy. We become active participants in crafting our own serenity, in building resilience, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. Now, I know this sounds simple, almost simplistic. Life is complex, it hurts. And it's tempting to look outwards for explanations, for remedies, but what if the answer lies within? What if our salvation is not in changing the world, but in changing how we engage with it? When Marcus Aurelius said, "You've been holding on to the wrong end of the stick," he wasn't giving up on life. He was embracing it. He was accepting its full weight, its darkness and its light, and choosing to engage with it on his own terms. He was discovering the paradoxical nature of happiness, which is that it often lies on the other side of our resistance, beckoning us to let go of the need to control, to surrender to the mystery of existence, and to find our peace in the midst of life's ceaseless churn. If this resonates with you, if you find yourself nodding, then I invite you to dig deeper, to question further. What if we're all looking at life through the wrong end of the telescope? What if the world isn't the problem? What if the problem is our problem? Dive into the comments and share your thoughts. How do you see this playing out in your life? How might this perspective shift the way you approach challenges? And remember, this conversation is just starting. Keep it going in the comments section. Let's discuss, let's debate, let's grow together. And if you found value in this, please hit like and subscribe. It helps spread this philosophy to more people who might benefit. Let's bring an end to suffering for sentient beings. Thank you for watching.